We don't have to go to 360 degrees. Now it's time we go the 180. You don't have to climb the highest mountains, for all you're looking for is within you. Open the eyes of your mind, your ears and mouth, as I sing my song. Open the eyes.
This is Channel Africa. Very good morning to you, and the show is called Rise and Shine. I'm Asanda Beda on this Friday, the 5th of December. Let's get our news update. Here's Onele Nzinzi with that, and then following her, our sports headlines with Musibudi Makura. It's 6 o'clock Central African time.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda, and a very good morning to our listeners. The leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed the peace agreement in Washington. The aim of the agreement, the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart have signed, is to end the long-running conflict in eastern Congo. Tshisekedi says they will comply with the terms of the agreement.
The Democratic Republic of Congo takes this solemn commitment to implement with complete sincerity all of our obligations that stem from this agreement. We will do this with seriousness, with rigorousness, and also with the constant care for peace and the security of our populations, for the unity and the integrity of our territory.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed the former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor as his special envoy to Tanzania. The East African nation has been rocked by violence following the recent election of President Samia Suluhu Hassan in last month's poll. Hundreds of people have since been charged, and pressure is mounting on the SADC region to provide leadership. President Ramaphosa, who is also the acting chairperson of the regional body, says he wants to satisfy himself with what is happening in the sister republic.
Naledi Pandor is my envoy. She will be going there to go and find out exactly what the challenges are, and she will come back with a report, and it is upon that we will see what interventions we make. So let's wait and see exactly how that unfolds.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is yet to receive a formal communication from the Donald Trump administration in the U.S. on the exclusion of South Africa from this month's G20 Sherpa meeting in the U.S. Earlier this week, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the South African Sherpas would not be invited. This follows hot on the heels of Trump's snubbing of last month's G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. Speaking in an exclusive interview with the SABC News, Ramaphosa said South Africa remains a G20 member in good standing and will deal with all the challenges as they come.
The United States has said that South Africa will not be invited. We have not seen that in writing yet. We've just had publications. We are yet to receive it in writing, and we will deal with that when it comes. We are, as South Africa, fully fledged member of the G20, and we have held a very successful G20, and this is not only being said by us, it is said by many, many other people around the world, saying that South Africa's presidency of the G20 was very successful. So we know that we held a successful G20. What happens going forward are matters that we will deal with.
South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile says gender-based violence and femicide remain a major concern. Mashatile said this during his last annual address to the National Council of Provinces. Mashatile's address happens when the country is observing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. He also said that man must take greater responsibility in protecting women and children.
Let us remember all the vulnerable women and children whose lives have been lost at the hands of men who continue to perpetrate abuse. Together, let us fight the scourge of GBVF and call on all men to be guidance of their families, homes, children, and communities.
And lastly, French President Emmanuel Macron has told his Chinese counterpart the countries must work together to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Macron and Xi Jinping have held talks in Beijing, where the French leader is seeking support over Ukraine. Russia is continuing with its 4-year-long full-scale invasion. Macron has addressed a media conference in Beijing.
I hope that China will join our call and our efforts to achieve as soon as possible at least a ceasefire in the form of a moratorium on strikes targeting critical infrastructure. This is key for the coming winter, as civilian infrastructure, particularly energy infrastructure, is still under Russian fire today. But more broadly, it is key that we work together to achieve a just and lasting peace.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, the D-Day has arrived. It's all about the FIFA World Cup 2026 draw today, while South African Springbok player banned for 12 months. Details of these and other stories coming up at 6:30.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Good morning to you, and thank you for making Channel Africa your choice of news and current affairs from the African perspective. I'm Asanda Beda, driving the show solo again today. Our partner Peter will join us on Monday. And here's what we can look forward to on the show. We'll be speaking about cybersecurity threats. These are on the rise. We keep talking about this. It's a conversation that needs to continue. And we now talk about the latest figures from the Kaspersky. And this is a research that was done between November in 2024 and October 2025. We'll be unpacking what the points are there to note. Also, going to Tanzania, a new study by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is exploring how mobile phone messaging can help patients stick to their tuberculosis treatment in Ethiopia and Liberia. So we'll be finding out how they're using SMS reminders to make sure that those patients adhere to the medication that they need to take. SMSs are still a thing. Did you know? But anyway, if they're helping in other parts of the world or the continent, they need to do what they need to do. That's the show. And then, of course, there'll be more coming up in terms of our discussions on news and current affairs in and around our continent of Africa. www.channelafrica.co.za is where you can connect with us. We are live streaming on YouTube as well. Channel Africa 1 is our handle, and that's also across other social media platforms. And on the SABC Plus app via mobile phone is where you can tune in.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Deogratus Bwire, wewe kama mkurugenzi wa shirika la kutetea haki za binadamu kutoka kule Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Maandamano yameendelea kwa siku ya pili. Nini kinaendelea?
Kwanza mimi ningependa tusiliweke kama wafuasi wa upinzani. Kwa sababu kiukweli mimi nilipata kidogo kushuhudia watu waliokuwa wanapita barabarani hawakuwa kwa namna yoyote ile wamebeba bendera ya chama chochote cha upinzani.
Umezungumzia swala zima vitu ambavyo havijakaa sawa vinapaswa kurekebishwa. Vitu hivyo ni nini?
Hivyo vitu ambavyo havijakaa sawa tayari nimeshavisema huko. Najua kumekuwepo na mtiririko wa matukio mengi sana. Watu ambao wanakuwa wanapinga masuala kadha wa kadha ambayo yanaonekana kufanywa na vyombo vya dola kwenye mitandao au hata pia nje, wamekuwa wakichukuliwa hatua.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Time now for our Africa Roundup on Rise and Shine, and this is what we bring you after the 6 a.m. news every day, or well, at least Monday to Friday. This is a list of news compiled by our team of researchers, our reporters, as well as editors to make sure that you in the know in terms of what's happening in and around our continent. It also serves as what we can expect to develop in this new day, news-wise. Today in our Africa Roundup, we begin with U.S. President Donald Trump, who's joined the Democratic Republic of Congo and President there, Felix Tshisekedi, and Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Washington on Thursday. The leaders have signed a historic agreement aimed at ending decades of conflict. Here's President Trump speaking at the ceremony.
And very importantly, we're settling a war that's been going on for decades with millions and millions of people killed. And today we're succeeding where so many others have failed. And this has become the 8th war that we've ended in less than 1 year. Such an exciting thing to do. This has been because we're talking about 30 years of fighting, 30 years. The compact we're signing today, which will be known as the Washington Accords, formalizes the terms agreed to in June, including a permanent ceasefire, the disarmament of non-state forces, provisions for refugees to return to their homes, and justice and accountability for those who have committed illegal atrocities. Very importantly, this agreement also creates a new framework for economic prosperity. There's tremendous wealth in that beautiful earth. It's beautiful earth, but it was stained badly with blood, tremendous amounts of blood.
Staying with the U.S., the Secretary of State there, Marco Rubio, has signed the Health Framework of Cooperation Agreement with Kenyan President William Ruto and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi in Washington. The pact aims to strengthen U.S.-Africa health security with a focus on disease prevention and building local capacity. President Ruto tells us more about this agreement.
The framework we signed today adds momentum to my administration's universal health coverage that is focused on supply of modern equipment to our hospitals, efficient and timely delivery of health commodities to our facilities, enhancement of our health workforce, and health insurance for all, leaving no Kenyan behind. This facility will also boost disease surveillance and emergency preparedness. On behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I express profound gratitude to the United States, to President Donald Trump, and to you, Marco, for the commitment of US dollars 1.6 billion to Kenya over the next 5 years. This gesture of goodwill by President Trump on behalf of the American taxpayers reinforce our ongoing mobilization of domestic resources by Kenyans.
A story we heard from the 6 a.m. news now. South Africa has rejected U.S. pressure to change its race-related policies after Washington confirmed that Pretoria would be excluded from the G20 under its presidency. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio accused the South African government of racism against white citizens, an allegation also made by former President Donald Trump, but the current President Donald Trump, but widely discredited. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa speaks on this issue.
We don't need to mobilize anyone. We're not wired that way as South Africa. Every country must take its own decisions, and we are who we are, and we don't really peddle our role in any shape or form. People or countries respect us for what we are, and they applauded our role in the G20 for the manner in which we ran and managed the G20. So as South Africa, we leave every country to make up its own mind with regard to all that is happening. And all we want really as South Africa is to be treated as an equal sovereign country, a country that respects other countries, a country that fosters the success and prosperity of other countries.
Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces, which attacked a city in Darfur in late October, are reportedly holding residents hostage for ransom and killing or beating those unable to pay, according to witnesses, aid workers, and researchers. Ryan Brooks reports.
Many told Reuters that those whose families can't pay are being killed or beaten. Reuters could not determine how many people are being held by the Rapid Support Forces and allied militias around Al-Fashir. However, Muhammad Adam says his son is among them.
If I am displaced, where would I get money from? If you don't pay, they tell you, we will shoot him. Isn't this difficult? You don't have the money at all. It is very difficult. There are many who are held captive. More than 1,000 persons are being held. It is very difficult. My son is being held. I don't know if he is alive or dead. Now, my son, Abdel Motaleb Mohammed Adam Hamed, I don't know if he is alive or dead.
Other survivors said they paid ransoms worth up to $17,000, a huge amount in an impoverished region. 11 survivors told Reuters that those who could not pay were shot at close range or mowed down in groups, while others were badly beaten.
Clashes between students and security forces at Senegal's main university escalated this week as protesters called for stipends and other financial support amid the government's ongoing budget challenges. Here's Blanche Ankla with more.
And police respond with tear gas. That was the scene as protesters clashed with law enforcement at Senegal's Cheikh Anta Diop University on Wednesday. The demonstrators were demanding stipends and other financial aid, but faced a government battling economic challenges. A student at the university told Reuters that they were trying to engage in discussions when the police came in. The unrest comes as the West African nation struggles with a severe financial strain and a mounting debt burden. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, an alumnus of the university, had pledged to combat unemployment, corruption, and elitism. But he and President Bassirou Diomaye Faye have faced criticism from opposition parties over the government's handling of growing social and economic challenges.
That's how we come to the end of today's segment of the Africa Roundup at 16 minutes past 6 Central African time. Coming up, we talk about cybersecurity and how that is on the rise.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Growing pressure from regulators, investors and stakeholders is accelerating the demand for credible sustainability reporting across Africa. But major gaps in skills, guidance and jurisdictional adoption remain. These concerns took center stage on the second day of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA, Africa Members Convention in Mombasa, Kenya. This is where experts discuss the continent's readiness to implement global sustainability standards. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange reports.
African countries are being pushed to align with emerging global sustainability reporting requirements, yet many organizations still lack the skills, systems, and regulatory support needed to meet the standards. A panel of industry leaders highlighted the urgent need for capacity building, assurance readiness, and locally relevant frameworks. Amin Miramago, Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, said sustainability reporting demands expertise far beyond traditional financial reporting.
Sustainability reporting requires knowledge far beyond the traditional financial reporting that we are used to, meaning that we must now begin to develop, skills in things like climate science, governance, social metrics, and long-term value creation. Organizations are moving faster than the talent pipeline that we have. So there's a strong demand of people with the required skills who are going to be helping the different organizations.
Dr. Kwabena Situ, assurance partner at Deloitte in Ghana, warned that companies may fail to see real value if reporting and assurance are not properly executed.
The entity actually begin to see value from the reporting to the assurance part of the journey, the sustainability journey. So you could have done a lot of sustainability activities in order to, get things right. But if you miss the reporting and eventually if you don't get the assurance right, then you are not going to see value. And when it comes to the assurance, there is a lot of work that goes on there.
Tanzania's Accountant General CPA Leonard Mkude highlighted the growing digitalization of sustainability-related financial data across African jurisdictions.
The other issue in terms of opportunity we have seen is digitalization of the sustainability. When you go to the central bank, any of them, you could go through the website of Central Bank of Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, or rather the jurisdiction where I am from Tanzania. All the data are real-time available. You can go at any point in time. You get the interbank financial markets, you get the inflation, GDP, exchange rate, whatever.
Sandip Main, tax partner and head of private enterprise at KPMG Africa in Kenya, questioned whether global standards are being applied with enough understanding of Africa's local realities.
I think when we talk about implementation, we have to be really, really open to the fact that these are global standards. Do they really apply to the African context? Have they understood the African context as far as sustainability is concerned? Why are we complying? We must comply. But we talked about investor readiness. Investors, European investors you mentioned, right, are demanding, foreign investors are demanding that businesses, before they make an investment in any African business, they need to have a sustainable report. They need to have, implemented S1, S2, but the local businesses do not seem to even understand how to do that.
The panel agreed that African organizations face a steep climb to meet global sustainability expectations, from skills shortages and assurance gaps to unclear regulatory pathways. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebuchang Mabanke in Mombasa, Kenya.
At Channel Africa 1 is our social media handles. We are on X, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on TikTok, we are on Instagram. You can get in touch with us with your comments or questions about our show. This is Africa Rise and Shine.
Ahoy, matey.
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa 1. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa 1. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. The charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. What punishment is he looking at?
The most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle.
The director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa has marked a significant cultural milestone with the launch of 91 new literary works through the DSAC Publishing Hub, a government initiative supporting inclusive publishing, and ANFASA, the association representing academic and non-fiction authors. The collection spans the country's 11 official languages and includes rare works in endangered Khoi and San languages. With the new Braille and audiobook editions, the project strengthens efforts to preserve indigenous voices while broadening access to literature nationwide. To share more about this project is Ms. Catherine Mukwena, Director for Books and Publishing Directorate at the South Africa's Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Catherine, thank you for joining us. Good morning on this Friday.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
It's our pleasure. So tell us about this project, this 91 book collection, and how it's a major step for indigenous and endangered languages. How are you hoping this will broaden access to literature in the country?
This is one important landmark project in the literary sector, in the country, where we're hoping to revive the publishing sector and also as government to contribute, towards the development of local content by our authors, telling our good South African story, but at the same time preserving our heritage as a country. So it's quite a great initiative that, plant a seed of success in the literary sector to the authors as the content developers and also to publishers and the experts in languages in the literary sector. So this is quite a landmark initiative, and we are very much hopeful that we will reach the heights that we are planning to reach as the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, working together with ANFASA, and obviously hoping that other partners and collaborators within the literary sector will come on board and see their space, in making a contribution towards this great initiative in developing our literary sector.
How were you able to include the endangered Khoi and San languages? Talk to us through that part of the process.
It's very much important as the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, as the custodian of the cultural and creative industries sectors, to make sure that our languages are taken care of. And we know that the Khoi and San, it's the languages that are also, if not developed, if not given the attention that they need to ensure that they are preserved, we will end up losing them. So that is key. That is key in the work that we do. Hence, we also included Braille, so that we make sure that every aspect of reading and writing in the country is taken care of, and including all the official languages, but also importantly the Khoi and San, to make sure that they are preserved. We don't end up losing them.
How or what kind of impact are you hoping that this initiative will have on South Africa's publishing sector going forward? It is a game changer.
It is a game changer, and now we've managed to produce about 91 literary works, and this is just a 3-year-old program. So, and with this 91 productions, the department inject financial seeds into the production of the work. The content developers are given a seed for producing the content. That's the authors. And we are also giving a seed, financial seed, to the publishers to make sure that they are able to produce these books, and not just books, but quality products. And we also inject seed funding into the literary practitioners who are editing the manuscripts that are received. So in this way, we are reviving the publishing sector. We are revitalizing it. We are planting a seed of developing the love for reading, the culture for reading. We have seen the stats that are there through research, how bad our situation is with regard to our children not being able to read for meaning. So it's very much important that all of us, we make contribution towards dealing with the current unpleasant situation of illiteracy and not being able to read, for meaning by our children. So the program will definitely make an impactful contribution towards that.
Thank you so much for your time, Catherine. We appreciate it. What a great project.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And we're hoping that most stakeholders, more literary sector organizations will come on board, partner with us, so that together we make a meaningful impact with the program.
Ms. Catherine Mukwena is Director for Books and Publishing and the Publishing Directorate at South Africa's Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, talking to us about this landmark collection available through various platforms and bookstores. It's 6:30 Central African Time. Let's get our news headlines. Here's Onel Nsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Sanda. The leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace agreement in Washington aimed at ending the long-running conflict in the eastern Congo. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed the former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor as his special envoy to Tanzania. The East African nation has been rocked by violence following the recent election of President Samia Suluhu Hassan in last month's polls. And the FBI has arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Washington headquarters of both the Democrats and the Republican parties in January 2021. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's get our first full bulletin for this Friday morning in the world of sports. And here's Musibudi Makura with those details.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Very good morning from the sports desk. Now, the FIFA World Cup trophy has arrived in Washington. I'm in the USA, touring some of the USA's capital's iconic sites ahead of the much-anticipated draw tonight. Now, football's ultimate prize was then showcased at the legendary John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, where football legend Rio Ferdinand, as well as FIFA representatives, welcomed the media for an exclusive sneak peek of what is expected, should I say, when the draw does take place later on tonight. Now, this will be the biggest ever FIFA World Cup draw in terms of the teams. 48 nations will be participating next year. Now, former England captain Rio Ferdinand shared his excitement as he prepared to conduct his historic 48-team final draw alongside award-winning broadcaster Samantha Johnson on Friday.
It's a huge moment. We're all, as a fan, I sit there and watch these events all the time because I want to see where my country is going to be placed, who that's the first game, all of these things here that really make for the kind of the build-up, then the runway into the World Cup. It starts getting tasty, it starts getting tantalising.
Onto this now, the Liberia Football Association has taken a major step in advancing youth football development with the official launch of the FIFA Elite Youth Goalkeeper Coaches Workshop at its headquarters. Now, the specialized 5-day training program running through the 5th of December aims now to strengthen the skills and the capacity of local coaching talent with a particular focus on youth-level goalkeeping. This initiative is also part of a series of development programs supported by FIFA following the recent CAF Coach Educators Workshop. Now, 22 experienced goalkeeper coaches from clubs as well as national teams are participating in the intensive course, which is being facilitated by FIFA experts Alejandro Hederia as well as Cameron Cox. The program focuses on the technical as well as the tactical requirements of the modern goalkeeper. That is, of course, emphasizing player development as well as knowledge sharing with Liberia's coaching community. On to some rugby news now. South African Springbok lock Eben Etzebeth has been handed an 18-match ban for an eye gouge reduced to 12 matches because of mitigating factors. Now, the two-time World Cup winning lock was handed the sentence on Thursday after a lengthy disciplinary process on Tuesday night. Etzebeth was red-carded during the Boks Test match against Wales in Cardiff last weekend, after making contact with the eye area of Welsh player Alex Mann. A scuffle towards the end of the game resulted in Etzebeth allegedly sticking his finger in the eye area of Mann. Now, the veteran lock will now miss 12 matches for the Sharks in the United Rugby Championship as well as the Champions Cup. The Springboks only play again in June or July of next year, so his involvement in any Test rugby will not be affected. So just for perspective, according to the hearing report, Etzebeth was charged under Law 9.12, which is a player must not physically abuse another player. His entry point was considered to be mid-range, which is then proposed ban of 18 months. His actions were deemed intentional as well. The 18 matches were reduced to 12 because of mitigating factors, including pleading guilty, his good disciplinary record, and also showing remorse and apologizing for his actions and behavior. Etzebeth will now miss the Sharks matches in the United Rugby Championship as well as the Champions Cup, including matches on the 7th of December in the Champions Cup against Toulouse, against the Saracens on the 13th of December in the Champions Cup, against the Bulls on the 20th of December in the United Rugby Championship, the Lions on the 3rd of December in the URC, Sale on the 10th of December in the Champions Cup, Clermont on the 17th of December, or rather of January in the Champions Cup, the Stormers on the 24th of January, that's also in the URC, the Lions again on the 21st of January, also in the United Rugby Championship. And finally, weightlifting athlete as well as coach Daniel Kazav says the recent national championships offered clear proof of the sport's continued growth in South Africa. Gauteng played host to lifters from across the country, having gathered in Kempton Park in the east of Johannesburg, aiming to boost their totals as well as strengthen their bids for next year's Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. Kazav, who has also competed at every event, says he has encouraged, or rather was encouraged by the level of talent on display.
It was great to see some of the juniors coming through and competing with the seniors. They really put up a good show. A lot of them, when I spoke to, got PBs across the board, which is all you can ask of an athlete, is to do their best. And if they perform in numbers that they've never done before, it's all you can ask for them to do. As athletes, for myself, overall it was a great competition, but I think it was great to see some of them compete in a way that it was almost internationally recognizable.
Well, that's right from the Sports Desk at the Sawa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Call us as well on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
How refreshing it is to know that, in the country there's a collection of 91 literary publications that cover not only the 11 official languages, but those endangered languages of the Khoi and San people, and then making sure that there's access to also the underserved communities by including Braille there. So that was a previous story that we shared. We had a chat on that here on Rise and Shine. Just thinking about that, it's quite a powerful collection.
Siyabangena manje. Vito Jabulani Nkolele imakota. Jabulani is a young man from Giyani in Limpopo in South Africa. Very easy guy, taking things easy. To know me is to know that I love what I do, which I'm crazy about it. So when you hear me on radio, expect the best. Expect great music. Expect great content. Expect 180 minutes of nothing but fun. You'll find me on the morning reset, 3 to 6 a.m., Monday to Friday. Siyabangena baba. Ay. Mbuleke.
Let's say good morning now for the first time on this Friday morning to Noluthando Buthelezi. She has our update in the world of business.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Asanda, and good morning. South Africa's Department of Cooperative Governance has appointed a 10-person multidisciplinary task team to be deployed in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape Province in order to strengthen governance, to fix failing systems and to help restore basic service delivery. The intervention comes as National Treasury has threatened to withhold $31 million to equitable share funding unless the municipality acts on more than $1.75 billion in historic, unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. COGTA Deputy Minister Dr. Dixon Masemula says that the task team includes specialists in the financial management, internal audit and engineering experts to tackle failing infrastructure.
We've agreed that it is important basically for us to activate or invoke or actually put to practice Section 154 of the Constitution within the spirit of cooperative governance to make sure that as spheres that are interrelated and interdependent, we support one another, because at the end of the day, it is about services to the people of South Africa and therefore, in particular, the residents of this metro.
Morocco, which has endured 7 years of drought, plans to supply 60% of its drinking water from treated seawater by 2030, up from 25%. Morocco's Water Minister Nizar Baraka says that the country is accelerating investment in desalination plants powered by renewable energy in order to ensure steady water supply and to maintain Morocco's status as a key producer and exporter of fresh produce amid climate change. This as droughts have dried up some of the country's main water reservoirs and depleted underground resources. The North African country plans to produce 1.7 billion cubic meters of desalinated water annually by 2030 from projects under construction and plants for which it will hold tenders starting next year. Baraka says that all new desalination plants will be powered by renewable energy. Delegates at the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants Africa Members Convention in Mombasa saw delegates have focused one of their discussions on technology, professional visibility, and the evolving role of accountants across the continent. George Njari, the ACCA's head of the Eastern Africa cluster, elaborates.
Over time, the role of the accountant is moving more and more towards a person who is more strategic, towards a person who is forward-looking. Perhaps to be a little bit more graphical, before accountants were seen as people who would provide the information and data that then would be needed by decision makers in the boardroom to be able to make decisions. But now you're saying accountants are now part of those decision makers. Accountants are not just there to provide the information. They are there to be able to show trends. They are there because they understand the bottom line.
Bank of America Global Research says that an external debt restructuring in Senegal is increasingly likely in the second half of 2026. The country is struggling to manage billions in debt that the previous administration did not report and is in prolonged talks with the International Monetary Fund for a fresh lending program to help it cope. The bank says that it expects an external debt moratorium and restructuring negotiations towards the second half of 2026 alongside further domestic reprofiling, and says that given the resilience of the local market, a moratorium on external debt and subsequent restructuring negotiations appears most likely in late 2026. India's budget airline Indigo continues to face operational disruptions with more flight cancellations and delays. Yesterday alone, at least 175 flights were cancelled. Thousands of travellers were stranded. Captain C.S. Randhawa is president of the Federation of Indian Pilots.
Firstly, Indigo has a pilot shortage. This is because earlier they used to fly less and they thought, we'll make do with the limited pilots. So the extra pilots they used to keep aren't available anymore. Secondly, crew scheduling and rostering of pilots hasn't been.
Having a look at your morning indicators now, $1 in Nigeria is 1,446 naira. In Botswana, it is 13.29. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49, and in Zambia, it is 22 kwacha 95. The BRICS countries now, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 riel 31. Russia is 76 rubles 93. India it's 90 rupees 12. China 7 yuan 6, and South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rands 6 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. And then looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,200, platinum at $1,649 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $62.81 a barrel. Gold is trading at $4,202 and platinum at $1,636 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is quoted at $63.13 a barrel. For any news stories that you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
As South Africa marks 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children until December 10th, gender-based violence, or GBV, is not only a criminal crisis, but a moral and spiritual one. 80% of South Africans identifying with a faith, religious spaces are uniquely placed to shift harmful norms, advocate for survivors, and rebuild community accountability. We will speak out, South Africa, and the Faith Action to End GBV collective aim to break silence within faith communities and center survivor voices around its advocacy work. Our time now being 6:47 Central African time. Let's hear more from Tutongobeni on this story.
In 2024-2025, over 73,000 sexual offenses were reported. 957 women were murdered between July and September alone, and up to 95% of rape cases go unreported in South Africa. With the majority of South Africans identifying with a faith, religious spaces are uniquely placed to shift harmful norms, advocate for survivors, and rebuild community accountability. We will speak out, South Africa, and the Faith Action to End GBV collective aim to break silence within faith communities and center survivor voices through its advocacy work. Daniela Genrich, coordinator of WW which is a secretariat of the Faith Action Collective to End GBV, says they have joined with other individuals and organizations to effectively prevent and mitigate GBV.
Many people in South Africa believe that religion is about buildings where God is worshipped and people are instructed in the ways of the sacred. What many don't realize is that most faith traditions at root teach that religion, without being translated into loving relationships and working for justice and equity in society, is not true faith. In fact, a growing movement of faith-based initiatives working towards peace, harmony, and freedom from injustice and violence is based on the belief that to live out our true faith, we are called to speak up for justice and act and speak out for equal dignity and the rights of all people who are all equally loved by God. In this spirit, the We Will Speak Out South Africa Coalition and the Faith Action Collective to End Gender-Based Violence have joined forces with over 900 other individuals and organizations of diverse faiths to engage in joint initiatives and also to support each other's localized initiatives to effectively prevent and mitigate gender-based violence.
This year, WW is also driving the Global Red Chair campaign, a simple but powerful symbol during the 16 days, an empty red chair placed in a public space representing the women who should still be with us but were lost to GBV. The red chair is a visual call to ensure no more women die in this way and to take survivor voices seriously in faith spaces. Genrich further says they will be guided by the country's National Strategic Plan on GBV.
Guided by survivor voices and feminist values, we aim to leverage the moral authority that is still prevalent of faith sector leaders as social and gender justice advocates to contribute to achieving the goals of South Africa's National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, and to create the kind of society that we really want in this country and so badly need.
They have working groups focusing on specific areas that have been identified in that consultative process, and these 6 are survivor-centered.
So the Faith Action Collective has 6 working groups, which each focus on specific areas that have been identified in that consultative process. And these 6 are survivor-centered restorative justice, gender-based violence and mental health. There's so many impacts on mental health, not just of the survivors themselves, but their entire family. Youth and gender-based violence is another group. Spiritual abuse, which is absolutely critical that we understand how it works and the damage that is done. Another is about men, positive masculinities and the active positive presence of men as fathers and also allies of survivors and their partners. And the last one is about inclusivity and building a strong movement that allows space for diverse initiatives to really be supported and to grow as we grow to really shift the critical mass in the faith sector, which is still unfortunately predominantly very conservative and often silences the issues of gender-based violence.
For Channel Africa News, I am Tidongo Bene in Johannesburg.
Right, so it's about 5 days to go then in that countdown, or day 5 of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide. Let's see what other updates we'll be giving you in terms of that stand.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Comment est-ce que les militants et sympathisants du parti Les Transformateurs ont-ils réagi face à la condamnation de Succès Masra?
La condamnation ne m'a pas surpris et les militants transformateurs ont été bouleversés et indignés étant donné que le verdict est un verdict lourd, illégal, injuste et donc face à la répression dans laquelle le peuple tchadien est confronté, les militants transformateurs se sont résignés de ne pouvoir pas sortir manifester. Et donc c'est une situation totalement absurde pour un pays. Et aujourd'hui nous célébrons le 11 août, fête de l'indépendance. On pensait que le verdict allait être plus ou moins clément, mais le verdict est sévère.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
Cyber security threats are on the rise, according to the latest figures from Kaspersky. Between November of 2024 and October 2025, the global security firm detected millions of malicious files every day, targeting devices and networks worldwide. Joining us this morning to break down the findings and explain what it means for ordinary users and businesses is Meha Yamut, who's lead security researcher for the Global Research and Analysis team at Kaspersky. This is based in Dubai. Meha, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, let's start here first. Give us a quick overview then in terms of the Kaspersky's latest report and what stood out the most in this research.
So basically, the numbers are showing clearly that there's an increase in the cyber threat landscape. There's a bigger exposure, of course, and there is a clear indicator also that the cyber threat actors are very active in exposing and really creating much more malware files so they can exploit the users, steal from them data, steal from them their sensitive information, and so forth. And this is clear also showing since you just mentioned we are seeing 500,000 unique samples per day in 2025, and that is a significant increase from the previous years. Now, what this means is also that there is much more efforts from cyber criminals. At the same time, it indicates there is much more exposure of the users, of the corporate environments, and so forth. And also, we in those numbers, we try to also find in the details of, because the 500,000 unique malware file per day is a general number. So we try to identify what really is the biggest threat or the biggest issue in those numbers, and more specifics, what kind of malware and category of the malware is really spiking. And we have found that, specifically for South Africa, that spyware and info stealers are really on the rise, like probably more than 60% increase between this year and last year. And that also indicates that the cyber threat actors are focused on stealing specific information that comes mainly from the browsers where users used to save their username and passwords and log into certain websites. And they try to focus on stealing that kind of information because it can be used and sold on the dark web as well.
So why would the spyware be the hot topic or the type of cybersecurity threat that's highest in South Africa? What do you think attributes, or that can be attributed to? What contributes to that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because sometimes we see the different types of malware rise and spikes and drops as well between now and then. But I think when we look at the different drivers for this increase, we could see that there's more digitalizations, there are more users coming to the internet, using alternate devices, and therefore it gives the cyber threat actors and a driver to exploit those users who may not have security in their, or cybersecurity in the back of their minds, and so they try to exploit it. So again, it doesn't show specifically sometimes like why what is the main driver, but we think based on different theaters, these are the main drivers, digitizations, and more users exposed to the internet without cybersecurity as a primary concern to them.
Are cyber criminals targeting certain devices with the examples of maybe PCs, mobile phones, or even smart devices more than others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so at the end of the day, users have their own personal devices, right? And they have their laptops, their tablets, their mobile phones, and therefore they may be on their phones more on their corporate laptops. That again gives the cyber threat actors the focus, the angle where do they need to focus on instead of the corporate environments. Again, it depends on the season. For example, now it's the season of the holidays globally, so therefore they tend to the cyber criminals tend to focus on personal devices, laptops, personal laptops, and specifically mobile devices because people tend to use them more often, and on holidays they are more attached to them and so forth. So they start sending specifically SMS, phishing inside SMS machine or phishing emails with certain themes. Maybe they will send them like notification about certain fake application that they can install, and they are Trojanoid, so they can steal their personal data from their mobile phones as well.
Thank you so much for your time, Meher, and for educating us on this topic. I think it's one that we'll keep repeating because we need to be safe and vigilant.
Of course, as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Meher Yamut is lead security researcher for the Global Research and Analysis team at Kaspersky, based in Dubai, sharing insights on the latest cybersecurity trends and threats. Definitely saying that cyber criminals are intensifying their efforts in, implementing cybersecurity threats. And the trends coming out from South Africa, that spyware is the highest type of cybersecurity threat that we see playing out. And I guess that's where we're going to leave that chat because it's time now for the news. This is Rise and Shine. It's Channel Africa. I'm Asanda Beda, 7 o'clock Central African Time.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. The leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace agreement in Washington. The aim of the agreement, the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart have signed, is to end the long-running conflict in eastern Congo. Tshisekedi says they will comply with the terms of the agreement.
The Democratic Republic of Congo takes this solemn commitment to implement with complete sincerity all of our obligations that stem from this agreement. We will do this with seriousness, with rigorousness, and also with the constant care for peace and the security of our populations, for the unity and the integrity of our territory.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the agreement has economic values for the Great Lakes region.
This agreement also creates a new framework for economic prosperity. There's tremendous wealth in this beautiful earth, but it was stained badly with blood, tremendous amounts of blood. But in the region that will support a lasting peace, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have agreed to more closely integrate their economies with each other rather than fighting.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed the former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor as a special envoy to Tanzania. The East African nation has been rocked by violence following the recent election of President Samia Suluhu Hassan in last month's polls. Hundreds of people have since been charged and pressure is mounting on the SADC region to provide leadership. President Ramaphosa, who is also the acting chairperson of the regional body, says he wants to satisfy himself with what is happening in the sister republic.
Naledi Pandor is my envoy. She will be going there to go and find out exactly what the challenges are, and she will come back with a report, and it is upon that we will see what interventions we make. So let's wait and see exactly how that unfolds.
South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is expected to return to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, he struggled to defend his decision to disband the political killings task team in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Mchunu faced intense cross-examination from the commission's chairperson, retired Constitutional Court Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga. Many witnesses have accused Mchunu of not consulting stakeholders before ordering the disbandment of the task team. Sibahle Mota reports.
Mchunu has been placed on leave of absence, has explained what he means when he said that the PKTT should be disbanded immediately. He testified that the term immediately cannot be read alone, but needs to be read together with a directive he gave to National Police Commissioner Fani Masimola. Mchunu says that he first wanted General Masimola to go and prepare a preliminary report on the PKTT, and secondly convene a meeting with deputy ministers and the top executive so they may consider the decision he has taken.
Lastly, the FBI has arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Washington headquarters of both the Democratic and Republican parties in January 2021. The devices were discovered the same day supporters of President Trump stormed the Capitol building. The BBC's Sean Daly.
The FBI have been seeking a suspect for nearly 5 years. Earlier this year, investigators released CCTV that appeared to show someone placing a bomb near a bench outside the Democratic National Committee building in Washington, D.C. The BBC's US partner CBS says it's obtained a report that found the devices were wired up to a 60-minute kitchen timer, but for unknown reasons, neither detonated.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, the FIFA 2026 World Cup tournament draw will take place later on tonight in the USA, while Eben Elizabeth is banned for 12 weeks for eye gouging and Welsh player. Details of these and other stories coming up at 7:30.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Yes, it is Rise and Shine, and good morning if you've just joined us on this Friday morning. It's the 5th of December. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Asanda Beda. We look at Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo having signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington this hour. This was hosted by US President Donald Trump, and it's aimed at ending a long-running conflict in the eastern Congo. Also, a new study by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, is exploring how mobile phone messaging can help patients stick to their tuberculosis treatment in the countries of Ethiopia and Liberia. This initiative using SMS reminders or even motivation, to improve adherence while also examining barriers to digital health tools. And we'll be talking to a professor there from the Innovation Division at Africa CDC to tell us how that's working, if it is, and what more needs to be done then to make sure that people do take the TB medication. It's very important that it's the course is, of course, completed, as we know, and that we deal with that health issue. So those stories and more are coming up on this hour. Of course, we are on www.channelafrica.co.za. Also on YouTube, we're live streaming there at Channel Africa 1, and on the SABC Plus app is where you can connect with us. That Channel Africa at Channel Africa 1 handle is also across the platforms of X, of Facebook, of Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as TikTok. So lots of ways to connect with us on Rise and Shine. This is Channel Africa.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and the whole country affected by gender-based violence. For all your favorite SABC radio stations, call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump aimed at ending a long-running conflict in eastern Congo. The agreement comes after an escalation of fighting earlier this year when the M23 rebel group seized key cities, displacing thousands and causing heavy civilian casualties. While both presidents, Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame, have endorsed the deal, the rebels were not present, and fresh clashes continue to be reported on the ground. To help us understand what this deal could mean for the region and its people, we are now joined by Lionel Nditabirie, Kigali-based political analyst and editor of the Pan-African Review. Lionel, good morning to you and thank you for making time.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So now that the Washington summit has concluded, what's your first reaction to the peace deal between Rwanda and the DRC?
Well, it was needed. It's a first in the right direction, but as you said, the conflict continues, the fighting continues. So we should keep in mind that the primary conflict is between the Congolese government and the M23 movement. And as long as this conflict has not been settled, whatever agreement is signed with Rwanda or the United States, because here we are talking about an economic agreement whereas American companies can work with Rwanda and Congo to extract minerals for refinement in Rwanda and then for export in the US. So the primary conflict must be resolved because whatever conflict there is between Rwanda and Congo arises from the fact that in its fighting with the M23, the government of Congo has recruited the FDLR as another armed group to help it flush out the rebels. And so if the primary conflict is not resolved, then the conflict between Rwanda and Congo will continue.
So how significant is this deal then in practical terms? Because as you say, on the one hand, the M23 rebels, first of all, they were not present there, but fighting continues. And then on the other hand, it's being hailed as a major step forward.
No, this is, I would say, the American and Western media, making buzz about it. But the real truth is that the main process is in Doha. It is between Congolese, because as long as there is no peace between Congolese, there cannot be peace with neighbors, and which means that the conflict inside Congo is affecting neighbors and sometimes drawing neighbors in because you are using foreign militia groups to fight your own people. And that foreign militia group is made up of people who committed genocide in 1994. So you understand that Rwanda could not sit idle while this was happening. So it's the primary conflict that is provoking the conflict, interstate conflict.
So how much power then or influence can Washington realistically have in enforcing this deal, the U.S. Being the ones mediating the summit and promising investment in the region?
The only way to enforce this agreement is to find a way to find a peace deal or to force a peace deal on Congolese actors. And of course, when I use the word force, I wouldn't want it, but as of now, they're not willing to make peace. So for you to enforce a peace deal where most of the mining rights that you are getting are in about mines that are not even under the control of the government. For you to enforce that deal, which is an economic deal, you have to make sure that there is a peace agreement between Congolese actors and that peace is implemented. So the Doha track, we must keep an eye on it, because if it doesn't succeed, then the Washington peace deal will not work at all.
Both presidents, Tshisekedi and Kagame, they've both expressed hope and commitment. So from Kigali, how realistic is it that these commitments will be followed through?
Well, if you heard the government spokesperson, she said, Yolanda Makolo, she said that they were cautiously hopeful. The addition of the word has a meaning because so far it's been 5 months since the signing of this peace agreement. It was signed in June, 27 June, and there has not been any operation targeting the M20, the FDLR. There has not been anything approaching the kind of implementation that we would expect when it comes to a genocidal group. So I don't know, but we will have to wait. I myself don't see the government of Congo doing that, because it needs the FDLR to fight the M23 rebels. And since it needs them and continues to arm them, it means the conflict with Rwanda may escalate.
What are ordinary citizens on the ground saying about how they feel about this agreement and previous agreements with the back and forth that's been happening, and what should they be expecting looking ahead?
I think people on the ground, Congolese citizens, are tired of this conflict. They would like to see it, and they would like to see peace agreements implemented. But the political, I would say, the political environment in Kinshasa is not conducive to peace, because President Tshisekedi made strong commitments to his I would say, rather radical base. He promised victory. He promised that he would never integrate these M23 fighters into the army. He promised that refugees would not return until, because he's insinuating that they are not real Congolese. And so I don't see Kinshasa making any concessions to the M23. And even when they sign agreements or principles in Doha, those are not implemented. Kinshasa has refused to free any prisoner linked to the M23. It has refused to implement the ceasefire agreement. It keeps bombing those areas. It wants to retake those towns. So as things stand now, I think we are going to see more fighting, and maybe people will return to reason if the M23 advances again, or maybe the Kinshasa can make some gains, and the rebels could lower their demands. But I don't see that happening, knowing the state of the Congolese army. So it is more likely that the rebels are going to advance again, and that in that case, maybe Kinshasa will be more pragmatic.
Lionel, thank you so much for your insights, and we appreciate your time again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Lionel Nditabirie is a Kigali-based political analyst and editor of the Pan-African Review, helping us unpack the outcomes of the Washington summit there. Our time now being 7:16 Central African. Let's take a look at this story coming to South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa saying South Africa will not lobby other countries to boycott this month's G20 Sherpa meetings in the United States. This follows U.S. President Donald Trump's decision not to invite Pretoria to the preparatory meetings and the actual G20 Leaders Summit late next year. Ramaphosa was exclusively speaking to the SABC News on the sidelines of COSATU's annual charity golf challenge event, this in Johannesburg, on Thursday. The president said South Africa will never look down on any nation or treat any leader in a derogatory manner. Our political reporter Ntebo Mukobo has more.
Teeing off for a good cause during COSATU's second annual charity golf challenge. Probably the president would have used his golf skills to tackle his US counterpart Donald Trump at his golf course during the 2026 G20 Leaders Summit in Miami next year. However, the president and his team has been barred from attending the preparatory meetings, including the Sherpa meeting in the US this month. But Pretoria is not going to retaliate in a manner devoid of diplomatic decorum or even lobby other countries to stay away from the gathering, as President Ramaphosa explains.
No, we don't need to mobilize anyone. We're not wired that way as South Africa. Every country must take its own decisions, and we are who we are, and we don't really peddle our role in any shape or form. People or countries respect us for what we are, and they applauded our role in the G20 for the manner in which we ran and managed the G20. So as South Africa, we leave every country to make up its own mind with regard to all that is happening.
The president also said Trump's conduct and attitude towards him and South Africa do not worry him because Trump chose to base his decision on false and baseless genocide claims against white South Africans.
All we want really as South Africa is to be treated as an equal sovereign country, a country that respects other countries, a country that fosters the success and prosperity of other countries. We wish no country ill in the world, and in fact, as a country, we don't have enemies, we just have friends. And we want to advance the friendship relationships with all countries in the world. And we will never be derogatory against any country, any leader in the world. We will always treat every country with due regard and with respect and with great consideration.
And as an interim chair of the SADC region, South Africa has deployed former Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Dr. Naledi Pandor as a special envoy to Tanzania to help find a solution to the post-election violence in that country.
Naledi Pandor is my envoy. She will be going there to go and find out exactly what the challenges are, and she will come back with a report, and it is upon that we will see what interventions we make. So let's wait and see exactly how that unfolds.
Meanwhile, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan has defended her country's security forces who are accused of killing unarmed protesters during recent electoral unrest. The Tanzanian president said the crackdown has been necessary to prevent the government from being overthrown, accusing young people of being paid to take part in the protest. Opposition parties and rights groups, on the other hand, claim that more than 1,000 people were shot and killed during protests over October's disputed elections, which they say were rigged. I am Tebo Mokobe in Johannesburg.
Still to come, we get the latest from the world of sports, and also we'll have an update in terms of what's happening in the world of business here on Rise and Shine.
Happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
A new study by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, is exploring how mobile phone messaging can help patients stick to their tuberculosis treatment in Ethiopia and Liberia. The initiative, supported by the World Bank, will use SMS reminders to improve adherence while also examining barriers to digital health tools. For more on what this could mean for TB control in Africa, we are joined from Addis Ababa by Professor Mosoka Fala, head of the Science and Innovation Division at Africa CDC. Professor Fala, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's our pleasure. Why did Africa CDC choose to focus on SMS messaging to support TB treatment in particular and making sure that there's adherence?
Because we realized we want to take advantage of the fact that there are extreme challenges with TB adherence, leading to increasing morbidity and mortality worldwide in failure and resistance. At the same time, we know that Africa have seen a high cell phone penetration, high subscription across the continent, and so we thought that it is best that we employ this technology that has gained greater penetration and mHealth, and see how we can combine the issue of adherence and the advantage and penetration of mobile health, what we are calling digital adherence technologies.
Why is there this challenge of adherence to TB medication are you finding on the continent?
We've identified several factors. Issues, economic factor, personal issues, access to treatment, inadequate health system related issues. For example, the DOTS treatment that needed people to have direct observable short course treatment. You need huge capacity. There are long treatments, and you need the manpower to be able to visit the homes to observe treatment. At the same time, economic issue force people to go ahead to seek their daily lives, and so having people interacting with these patients every day at different times is a challenge. So we thought that we could bridge that now by giving people the opportunity, the power, and the choice at their level, wherever they are, giving them the respect of their privacy. Because of their cell phone, we could bridge some of these challenges of economic issue, health system related issue, and family and behavior type of issue.
So talk to us through the study then in terms of how it will work and what the patients will experience.
So basically we started with the two countries, Ethiopia and Liberia, rural Ethiopia, the second city called Diodewa, where there are high incidence of TB, and also in Monrovia, where the prevalence is about over 300 per 100,000 in Liberia, 119 in Ethiopia. And basically, we're going to use the TB treatment unit to extract the data, randomly select those that we want to introduce to this mobile assisted technology, and then the other will have the routine care. Based on the selection, the random selection, teams will do some baseline data, and then we're calling this a two-way technology-enabled adherence. Basically, the former ones we do one way, we do reminders, but to ensure that we are actively engaging with the participants who are in the treatment group. There's a way we can send them message, communicate with them, and they can communicate with us, and then use the information and see, compared to the standard of care, where people come routinely for care, compared to us actively engaging with them, building relationships so that there's two-way communication, and then measure to see if we have increasing adherence.
So why choose Ethiopia and Liberia specifically for this project?
Ethiopia and Liberia, because the two countries are among the countries that are reported to have high burden of TB. And so we wanted to go east and west. One is larger, and it has a challenging problem, one of several countries, and we decided to do this as a pilot. West Africa. So based on breeding of disease, you imagine Liberia has 5.2 million people, and there are 330 cases per 100,000. Ethiopia, as well, this part of Ethiopia, 119 cases per 100,000. That's the prevalence. So we went among all the countries that are high-breeding TB countries, randomly selected these two as pilot, one from a large population, Eastern African population, one from a small population for high-breeding, and see if we can do this across these two urban centers. We can then begin to take the information and pilot to the rest and scale this up to the rest of the countries that are high-breeding TB countries. It was a matter of starting to just start and then randomly selecting two of the countries from different regions on the continent.
Are there any particular challenges that you foresee that could come up in rolling out these digital adherence tools in these countries? I think earlier you mentioned a part of patient privacy.
One of the issues we always face when we roll out any mobile technology in Africa, one is internet connectivity. Is one, people affording phones. It's two, even though we try to overcome the issue of internet connectivity by trying to use SMS interactive tool for those that would not have some of these challenges for a video call. And affordability, if we try to roll this at a larger scale, illiteracy education level, we will have to try to look at issues like using graphic design for, say, my mother, my grandmother, who wouldn't read but have access to phone. Those are going to be the issues that we're going to face. And as we roll down the larger scale, we need to be able to overcome these barriers of access to internet, access to phone. This requires whole behavior change, and behavior change is not an easy thing. So those are the issues that we foresee as we roll to a larger, and then more effective monitoring. Monitoring evaluation will have to happen. The structure in the country program have to be dedicated. We'll have to integrate this within the primary healthcare system. So there are dedicated community health workers or team within the Ministry of Health. So integrating usually within primary healthcare, which is cost effective, is not always does not always work as we wish. So those are going to be some of the issues we see as we scale up across multiple countries. But we're also working to use this pilot to inform us on these challenges and barriers and see how we can overcome them and make them cost effective, most especially in this day in time of reduction in aid and reshifting financing. We have to show that it's cost effective.
All right. Thank you so much again for your time, Professor. We'll leave it there for now.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great. Professor Musoka Fala is head of the Science and Innovation Division at the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So they're rolling out an initiative. It's supported by the World Bank to distribute SMS reminders to improve adherence to medication for tuberculosis treatment. Focusing now on Ethiopia and Liberia, but it will expand to other countries, as we heard him say, if the pilot is successful. I think it will be successful. 7:30 Central African Time. Here's Onel Nzinzi with our news headlines.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump, which is aimed at ending the long-running conflict in eastern Congo. South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is expected to return to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. Many witnesses have accused Mchunu of not consulting stakeholders before ordering the disbandment of the political killings task team in the KwaZulu-Natal province. And the New York Times says it is suing the U.S. Department of Defense to overturn restrictions on journalists reporting on the military. Channel Africa News, I'm Oneli Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
And now let's check in with what's happening with the world of sports. Good morning, Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Very good morning from the sports desk. Under the new 48 format, that's the World Cup, it will feature about 12 groups of 4, or the teams drawn from 4 seeded pots based on the latest FIFA ranking. So tonight is all about the FIFA World Cup draw that is taking place in Washington at 7 p.m. Central African time. And there are 9, or should I now say 8 African nations that have now qualified for the World Cup. And crucially for the African side, Besides, FIFA's geographic restrictions ensures no group may contain more than one CAF nation, removing the possibility of an early All-African clashes, as well as guaranteeing 9 separate African representatives across the groups. Morocco as well as Senegal, currently Africa's highest-ranked teams, will enter the draw in Pot 2, avoiding some of the continent's toughest potential opponents, as well as increasing their chances of a favourable path. Now, 5 other African nations, that is Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Cote d'Ivoire, as well as South Africa, are placed in Group 3, or should I say Pot 3, setting up the possibility of complex, highly competitive groups. Meanwhile, Ghana as well as Cape Verde, both positioned in Pot 4, face the toughest draw conditions and are expected to be matched with a Pot 1 global powerhouse. That draw is at 7 p.m. Central African Time. It is an expanded FIFA World Cup. 48 teams will be participating in that World Cup, co-hosted by the USA, Canada, as well as Mexico. We'll stay with football news. Real Madrid head coach Xavi Alonso has moved to reassure fans about Jude Bellingham's mindset, insisting the England midfielder remains motivated and focused. Alonso said his priority is to ensure Bellingham is happy and performing at his best, noting that the 22-year-old shares the frustration of the squad after a run of 3 successive La Liga draws. That sequence has allowed Barcelona to edge a point clear at the top of the table, but Madrid will be confident of turning things around. Next week, Wednesday, when they visit Athletic Bilbao, we have lost 3 of their last 5 league matches. On to some rugby news now. Springbok lock Eben Etzebeth has been handed an 18-match ban for an eye gouge, reduced to 12 matches because of mitigating factors. Now, the 2-time World Cup winning lock was handed the sentence on Thursday after a lengthy disciplinary process on Tuesday night. Etzebeth was red-carded during the Boks Test match against Wales in Cardiff last Saturday after making contact with the eye of Welsh player Alex Mann. A scuffle towards the end of the game resulted in Etzebeth also allegedly sticking his finger in the eye area of Mann. The veteran lock will now miss 12 matches for the Sharks in the United Rugby Championship as well as the Champions Cup. Meanwhile, the Springboks will only play next June or July, so his involvement in any Test rugby will not be affected by the ban. And finally, weightlifting athlete as well as coach Daniel Kazav says the recent national championships offered clear proof of the sport's continued growth. In South Africa, now Gauteng played host to lifters from across the country as they gathered in Kempton Park in the east of Johannesburg, aiming to boost their totals as well as strengthen their bids for next year's Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. Kazav, who also competed at the event, says he was encouraged by the level of talent on display.
It was great to see some of the juniors coming through and competing with the seniors. They really put up a good show. A lot of them, when I spoke to, got PBs across the board, which is all you can ask of an athlete, is to do their best. And if they perform in numbers that they've never done before, it's all you can ask for them to do. As athletes, for myself, overall it was a great competition, but I think it was great to see some of them compete in a way that it was almost internationally recognizable.
And that's a wrap from the Sports Desk at the Sawa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, remember to send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with the final sports update on Africa Rise and Shine in the third and final hour of the show. It is 7:36 a.m. Central African Time for Channel Africa Sport. I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
All right, still to come, we'll be looking at a new gold mine being opened in the city of Johannesburg in Gauteng, that's here in South Africa, and word there from South Africa's Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister. And this project backed by Australian firm West Wits Mining. It's expected to boost local productivity and economic development and to revitalize the mining sector of the country.
madapiri pazochitika. Madapiri pazochitika.
inogeka zingeni chihana lumbiritsidwa kukhala wachiwiri kwa mtsogoleri wa dziko la Malawi pa mwambo omwe unachitika ku nyumba yachifumu ya Sanjika mu mzinda wa Blantyre. Ndiye pano tili ndi olemekezeka a chihana. Takulandirani olemekezeka pano pa wireless ya Channel Africa pa Chinyanja Service. Amalawi ayembekezere zotani kuchokera kwa inu ngati wachiwiri winanso kwa president wa dzikolo?
Choyamba ngati vice president umagwira ntchito yopatsidwa ndi president imene yakuganizira. Ndiye malowozi athu atipatsa bwinobwino, koma ntchito yathu yayikulu za president kuti masomphenya awo yakwanitsidwe. Pali zambiri zoti zichitike, nkhani ya njala mdziko muno, boma la udakali chimanga ndi china chomwe chili mdziko muno kuti tithandize ana families are affected. Chachiwiri kunali ma fuel shortages amene akanaliponso apo ndi apo, tionetsetse kuti pumps athu asakhale dry.
Zochitika pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo, lolemba mpaka lachisanu ndi madapiri.
Let's now find out what's happening in the world of business. Here's Nolutando Buthelezi to update us. Good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda, and good morning. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the Youth Employment Service Program as a good example for effective public-private partnership. Representatives of business and government gathered in Johannesburg to celebrate reaching over 200,000 funded job placements under the program. Ramaphosa highlighted the significance of government's role in equipping young people with skills.
I want it forever, because our corporates are clearly showing that they are utilizing it to good effect. And for transformation should never be a process that stops at one stage. We should continue to transform, because through transformation we are then able to address the challenges that will keep coming up.
Action SA is adamant that it cannot support a South African bill that fuels the illicit economy. The party has rejected the rates and monetary amounts bill in the National Assembly. During a debate, Action SA argued that South Africa was a tale of two economies, with a struggling legal economy growing at barely 1% and an illicit market expanding at more than 6% annually. The party's Member of Parliament, Ellen Beasley.
The cheapest legal pack of cigarettes is 35 rand, and the difference is just purely tax. Alcohol, 37% tax on alcohol. So it's just absolutely crazy. We're scoring a massive own goal. And as Action SA, we say we understand the thinking behind it, but until there's actual prevention and enforcement of the legal trade.
Egypt's savings system says that its technology can result in big savings on corporate electrical bills. At the heart of its product are special capacitors, devices which store electrical energy. Savings System says that when wired up, the capacitors can make electricity use more efficient, saving the customers more money and carbon emissions. Chief Executive Ahmed Al-Wakil says that launching new tech products requires patience. This is the fourth of a 5-part series on technology in Africa. Some United States mining and refining executives say that Washington must move even faster to bolster critical minerals projects and offset Beijing's grip on the world's supply of the building blocks for electronics, weapons, and a range of other goods. The push underscores how Washington's surging support this year for the sector, including taking stakes in mining companies and guaranteeing a price floor for the only U.S. rare earths mine, is falling short of what industry leaders say is needed amid intense Chinese competition. Executives from Perpetua Resources, American Rare Earths, and Westwind Elements say that the U.S. government should release a comprehensive minerals plan, pressure Indonesia to trim nickel production, and speed up the time for the U.S. Export-Import Bank and other agencies to approve loan funding, amongst other steps. On to Russia now, where the President Vladimir Putin will be holding a summit, talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi today. The discussions are aimed at boosting trade and the top buyer of Russia's arms and seaborne oil, as Western sanctions squeeze their decades-old ties. Putin is on his first visit to India in 4 years at a time when New Delhi is engaged in talks with the U.S. for a trade deal to cut punitive tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump on its goods over India's Russian oil purchases. Moscow has been India's top arms supplier for decades and has said that it wants to import more Indian goods in an effort to grow trade to $100 billion by 2030. That so far has been skewed in the favor due to New Delhi's energy imports. Let's have a look at the morning indicators now. $1 in Nigeria is 1,446 naira. In Botswana, it is 13 pula 29. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49, and in Zambia, it is 22 kwacha 95. The BRICS countries, $1 is in Brazil is trading at 5 real 31. Russia, 76 rubles 93. India, 90 rupees 12. China, it's 7 yuan 6, and South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rands 6 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,200 and platinum at $1,649 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $62.81 a barrel. Gold is trading at $4,202 and platinum $1,636 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $63.13 a barrel. For any stories that you would like to share with us, please do remember to send us an email at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For your business news, I am Nolutando Butelezi.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam. Rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
7:45 Central African Time. South Africa's Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister, Gwede Mantashe, has reaffirmed government's commitment to revitalizing the mining sector. Speaking at the official opening of the new Kala Shallows gold mine in Roodepoort, a city in the country's province of Gauteng, on Thursday, Mantashe highlighted the country's historic contribution to global gold production and the importance of creating an enabling environment for responsible investment. The project, backed by Australian firm West Wits Mining, is expected to boost local economic development and signal renewed confidence in South Africa's mining industry. Mantashe was accompanied by Australian High Commissioner to South Africa, Tegan Brink. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
The launch of the Kala Shallows gold mine in Roodepoort underscores government's ongoing commitment to fostering a supportive environment for responsible mining, attracting investment, and driving socio-economic growth in the sector. Significantly, it also marks the country's first new underground mining operation to open in 15 years, a milestone for South Africa's mining industry. Addressing the gathering, Mining Minister Gwede Mantashe shared South Africa's gold mining history.
It's a very important ceremony because it demonstrates, particularly to those who are having skepticism about mining. You know, we've produced more than half of world gold in South Africa. More than half of world gold that is in circulation today is mined in this country. We used to be a leading gold mining country. We're number 13 in the world now. We're number 4 in the continent. Not by accident, because mining is a finite sector. Every mining company, any mine that is open has a lifespan. At one point it will close because you don't mix water and syrup to produce gold. You mine a kilogram, that kilogram is gone.
He urged stakeholders to increase their investment in exploration.
More exploration is going to extend the life of mining in South Africa. We must do and invest in exploration. We have actually invested in exploration ourselves. We put 200 million rand in exploration. ITC, which is represented here, put another 200 million rand in the exploration. That fund is more than 2 billion rand now. Mining companies must invest there because exploration doesn't create value. You are looking for quantity and quality of the mineral. Only after making a discovery do you really create value. That's why we've cut out BEE from exploration. We don't want you to have a BEE partner in exploration because you are looking.
Mantashe also cautioned mining executives to prioritize robust, healthy and safety measures to prevent fatalities.
In the pursuit of production, because of the price, let's observe good health and safety programs. Work with us in achieving zero harm in mining, because zero harm is quite important. We are at record 42 fatalities in the industry last year. 42 fatalities in the industry last year. And we're heading for breaking that record this year. And Caesar, the Chief Inspector of Mines, doesn't want to talk about that now. It's 1 month to go. He says, if you say anything, you create a precedent that it will happen. Gold mining and platinum do continue to kill people in numbers.
Furthermore, Mantashe called on mining companies to meaningfully fulfill their cooperative social responsibilities.
Social and labor plans, social investment in the communities you're working in, do make a contribution in social and labor plans. I have emphasized to the mining companies, please don't get yourself into small projects to appease the community. If you don't have enough resources, pool your resources together as different mining companies and make an impact in a community. Build a school, build a clinic, buy vehicles for safety to fight crime. It's more befitting to you with some Azamas next door to you. Build vehicles to give them to the police, they fight crime. Fence fields, produce food for people to eat. If you do that, that is a real social and labor plan.
Australia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Tegan Brink, noting that it is expected to generate more than 1,000 jobs for the local communities.
This is hugely significant. I mean, as we heard, this is the first new underground gold mine in South Africa that's opened in 15 years. And I'm really delighted to see an Australian company be the one to make that investment, which will result in, I understand, 1,000 jobs and other benefits to the local community. Of course, Australia and South Africa have a hugely significant mining relationship that goes back a long time. South African mining firms are also big investors in Australia, so it's a source of economic development and prosperity for both our countries.
However, residents living near the mine have raised concerns about being left out of the process. Speaking to Channel Africa, community leader Sipni Ndlovu expressed these frustrations.
Main issue, as you see, that my unhappiness about this mine is that affected areas of communities, they don't know about what is going on. We're being chased, even today, we're being chased by the police, by the security, as we are the criminals and hooligans. We are here because we are the beneficial of this land. According to the Act of South Africa, they said the mine, they must work with the community. But this one, it doesn't work with the community. It's not the first time.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Still to come on Rise and Shine, we look at the annual Algeria Investment Summit, and that's currently underway here in Johannesburg, South Africa, and get an update in what's transpired there.
9 to 12 midday, Central African Time. On the move with Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatama.
Now, when you go to the hospital, there's medical attention that you need, and that's the only experience you're expecting to have. If you are a transgender person, sometimes those experiences can be marred by the demand of trying to understand your gender, your sexuality, and not particularly getting the assistance that you need.
One time, I was sexually abused by someone who used to live next door to my house. So when I went to the police to report, I was in a weave, I was wearing a dress, and when I got there, the police person that helped me said to me, obviously we're gonna rape you because why do you walk around looking like trying to be a woman when you are a man? And after that, the person just walked scot-free.
How do you deal with that? Because there's a double barrel abuse there. So it's not even double barrels, there's kind of multi-dimensional forms of abuse.
I think one thing that I will tell you about trans people is we are strong, not because we want to be strong, but because we don't have an option. It is what it is. Because struggles each and every day are like unimaginable.
Keeping you on the know and on the move. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Growing pressure from regulators, investors and stakeholders is accelerating the demand for credible sustainability reporting across Africa. But major gaps in skills, guidance and jurisdictional adoption remain. These concerns took center stage on the second day of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA, Africa Members Convention in Mombasa, Kenya, where experts discussed the continent's readiness to implement global sustainability standards. Channel Africa's Lebuhang Mabange reports.
African countries are being pushed to align with emerging global sustainability reporting requirements, yet many organizations still lack the skills, systems and regulatory support needed to meet the standards. A panel of industry leaders highlighted the urgent need for capacity building, assurance readiness and locally relevant frameworks. Amin Miramago, Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, said sustainability reporting demands expertise far beyond traditional financial reporting.
Sustainability reporting requires knowledge far beyond the traditional financial reporting that we are used to, meaning that we must now begin to develop, skills in things like climate science, governance, social metrics, and long-term value creation. Organizations are moving faster than the talent pipeline that we have. So there's a strong demand of people with the required skills who are going to be helping the different organizations.
Dr. Kwabena Situ, assurance partner at Deloitte in Ghana, warned that companies may fail to see real value if reporting and assurance are not properly executed.
The entity actually begin to see value from the reporting to the assurance part of the journey, the sustainability journey. So you could have done a lot of sustainability activities in order to, get things right. But if you miss the reporting and eventually, if you don't get the assurance right, then you are not going to see value. And when it comes to the assurance, there is a lot of work that goes on there.
Tanzania's Accountant General CPA Leonard Mkude highlighted the growing digitalization of sustainability-related financial data across African jurisdictions.
The other issue in terms of opportunity we have seen is digitalization of the sustainability. When you go to the central bank, any of them, you could go through the website of Central Bank of Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, or rather the jurisdiction where I am from Tanzania. All the data are real-time available. You can go at any point in time. You get the interbank financial markets, you get the inflation, GDP, exchange rate, whatever.
Sandip Main, tax partner and head of private enterprise at KPMG Africa in Kenya, questioned whether global standards are being applied with enough understanding of Africa's local realities.
I think when we talk about implementation, we have to be really, really open to the fact that these are global standards. Do they really apply to the African context? Have they understood the African context as far as sustainability is concerned. Why are we complying? We must comply. But we talked about investor readiness. Investors, European investors you mentioned, right, are demanding, foreign investors are demanding that businesses, before they make an investment in any African business, they need to have a sustainable report. They need to have, implemented S1, S2, but the local businesses do not seem to even understand how to do that.
The panel agreed that African organizations face a steep climb to meet global sustainability expectations, from skills shortages and assurance gaps to unclear regulatory pathways. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabanke in Mombasa, Kenya.
Algeria's ambassador to South Africa, His Excellency Ali Achoui, says Algeria is opening up major investment opportunities, particularly in infrastructure, mining and energy. He noted that stronger partnerships with African countries will be central to accelerating this growth. The ambassador was speaking at the annual Algeria Investment Summit, and here's Innocent Samosa with more.
According to a 2024 Africa-wide trade report, total trade between Algeria and African countries was about $4.6 billion. And at the time, South Africa was listed as one of the main African partners for Algeria, with a trade volume of roughly $165.28 million. At the 2025 annual Algeria Investment Summit, Algeria's ambassador to South Africa, His Excellency Ali Achoui, urged delegates to collaborate.
It's very important to work. We have just to work, and we have to believe of the capacity of each other. As African, we have to believe of the capacity Algerian has to believe of the capacity of South African and vice versa. And I think the problem that as African we didn't speak together. We didn't exchange together. This is the problem. We meet in Europe, we meet in America, but we didn't meet in Africa. This is the problem. We have to believe, we have to trust each other.
He says introducing a direct one-way flight from Algeria to South Africa in January next year will significantly strengthen trade relations between the two countries.
I can tell you that Air Algeria will restart the direct flight between Algiers and Pretoria in January. Maybe this decision will contribute to enhance the level of exchanging between two countries. And about the amount of the exchanging between two countries is around $200 million.
Imani Taumi, Assistant Manager of the Director General Algerian Investment Promotion Agency, shares some of the advantages and the sectors.
Advantages. The advantages are split in two parts. The first of them is the tax and the parafiscal advantages, and the second part is granting economic lands for investors. Those advantages for the first category is the land allocation. Our agency grants lands through a 100% digitalized application process. We grant industrial, touristic, and urban lands through a concession system. We grant concession contracts for a renewable period of 33 years.
Delegates underscored the importance of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement in creating millions of jobs, including better paid and higher quality jobs.
And then we have this magic pot called the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And just go and speak to anybody that lives in the UK that will tell you the truth. What's the consequences when you leave a free trade area? The UK isn't better off today because it's left the EU. It's worse off. So if any country inside Africa is saying we don't want to be part of this agreement.
That report by Innocent Samosa from the annual Algeria Investment Summit. We now enter the third hour of Africa Rise and Shine. It's 8 o'clock Central African time. Here's your news with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda.
Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington that was hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump, aimed at ending the long-running conflict in eastern Congo. The agreement comes after an escalation of fighting earlier this year when the M23 rebel group seized key cities, displacing thousands and causing heavy civilian casualties. While both President Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame have endorsed the deal, the rebels were not present and fresh clashes continue to be reported on the ground. Kigali-based political analyst and editor of the Pan-African Review, Lionel Nditabiria, explains.
Here we are talking about an economic agreement whereas American companies can work with Rwanda and Congo to extract minerals for refinement in Rwanda and then for export in the US. So the primary conflict must be resolved because whatever conflict there is between Rwanda and Congo arises from the fact that in its fighting with the M23, the government of Congo has recruited the FDLR as another armed group to help it flush out the rebels. And so if the primary conflict is not resolved, then the conflict between Rwanda and Congo will continue.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the agreement has economic value for the Great Lakes region.
This agreement also creates a new framework for economic prosperity. There's tremendous wealth in this. It's beautiful earth, but it was stained badly with blood, tremendous amounts of blood. But in the region that will support a lasting peace, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have agreed to more closely integrate their economies with each other rather than fighting.
South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is expected to return to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, he struggled to defend his decision to disband the political killings task team in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Mchunu faced intense cross-examination from the Commission's chairperson, retired Constitutional Court Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga. Many witnesses have accused Mchunu of not consulting stakeholders before ordering the disbandment of the task team. Sibahle Mota reports.
Mchunu has been placed on leave of absence, has explained what he means when he said that the PKTT should be disbanded immediately. He testified that the term immediately cannot be read alone, but needs to be read together with a directive he gave to National Police Commissioner Fani Masimola. Mchunu says that he first wanted General Masimola to go and prepare a preliminary report on the PKTT, and secondly convene a meeting with deputy ministers and the top executive so they may consider the decision he has taken.
The Border Management Authority in South Africa has made a major breakthrough in the fight against wildlife trafficking following a coordinated transitional operation that resulted in the seizure of a significant consignment of rhino horns as well as lions and tiger parts. They were destined for the Southeast Asian illegal market. The intelligence-driven operation was run by the BMA together with the Revenue Service and others. It was launched after a suspicious consignment originally dispatched to Singapore was identified and returned to its sender in South Africa. Investigative teams traced the shipment to a storage facility in Kempton Park in the east of Johannesburg. Officials found 17 rhino horns along with 26 kilograms of lion and tiger bones, skulls and claws. The BBC's Memi Mokhotsi explains.
The recovered horns and animal parts are believed to form part of a broader transnational trafficking network responsible for smuggling wildlife products from South Africa to foreign markets. 2 Nigerian nationals, aged 34 and 35, were identified as the receivers of the consignment and they were immediately taken into custody.
And lastly, the New York Times says it is suing the U.S. Department of Defense to overturn restrictions on journalists reporting on the military. The paper says the rules infringe on the First Amendment, which protects press freedom. The BBC's Mimi Swebi.
The limits mean accredited journalists can only report information authorised by officials. Few major outlets have signed up, with most preferring to report on the Pentagon from the outside. Taking their place, new arrivals featured an array of mostly conservative pro-Trump bloggers. The policy, which officials say limits damaging leaks, was announced by the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who's had numerous run-ins with the media. These rules are his latest step in a months-long effort to curtail the access and privileges of the Pentagon press corps.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, FIFA's ruling on players' release date upsets Cup of Nations preparations, while South Africa will get their T20 series underway against Ireland in Cape Town this afternoon. Details of these and other stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Good morning and welcome. If you've just joined us as we enter the third hour of Rise and Shine, and we broadcast live from our Johannesburg studios in South Africa. On www.channelafrica.co.za is where you can connect with us. Tune in also via YouTube. Live stream there at Channel Africa 1 is our handle, and via the SABC Plus app on mobile phones. You can also get in touch with us on our various social media handles, or platforms rather. The handle is the same at Channel Africa 1 as it is with the YouTube one, and connect with us in any way that you would like to. We'd love to hear your views. I am Asanda Beda, and in this hour we look at day 42 of the Madlanga Commission, South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's decision to hastily disband the political killings task team in South Africa, having come under the spotlight at this Madlanga Commission, and this commission being set up by President Cyril Ramaphosa to investigate allegations of corruption in the police force. We'll unpack then all that came out as a wrap for the week, and also how this commission continues to reveal corruption in law enforcement and exposing the failures of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. That will be one of the focus areas, the EMPD, as well as the National Political Killings Task Team.
Africa, voici Abedi. Oui, c'est moi. Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za.
South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's decision to hastily disband the political killings task team has come under the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission, a commission that was set up by President Cyril Ramaphosa to investigate allegations of corruption in the police force. Minister Mchunu, who has been placed on leave of absence, is under cross-examination at the commission. This for his decision to disband the Political Killings Task Team, or the PKTT. Many witnesses have criticized Mchunu's decision, which they have described as outside his jurisdiction. He has also been accused of having close links with members of alleged criminal cartels. Sbahle Mota filed this report.
Chairperson Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga has questioned why Mchunu made a hasty decision in disbanding the Political Killings Task Team. Justice Madlanga also questioned why Mchunu did not consult with National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola. This is despite Mchunu claiming that he and Masemola have a good working relationship.
The PKTT is being praised at meetings of the Interministerial Committee, correct? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Correct. Now you are suggesting that because something had happened or had been said in the work study, therefore, senior management of SAPS must have expected that you could just drop what I will continue to call this bombshell.
Justice Madlanga also questioned Mchunu if the PKTT was the only task team that was disbanded. There are currently 10 police task teams in the country, but Mchunu told the commission that other task teams were established by General Fani Masimula.
Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is a unit, not a task team, that we disbanded, the police inspectorate.
I'm talking about a task team, Minister. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is no other task team that we disbanded, because the only one that we could talk about was MPKTT, because the other ones were established by National Commissioner and they fell within his purview.
Earlier in his testimony, Mchunu cited various complaints that were brought against the PKTT. This includes alleged human rights abuses leveled against the unit. Mchunu testified that he received the complaints shortly after he was appointed as police minister in 2024.
These reports raise concerns about human rights abuses by members of the National Political Killings Task Team, among others. They raise concerns also around issues of governance, failures affecting various temporary and ad hoc task teams. And those included, but not limited to, the NPKTT. They were raising issues across subs, especially on task teams.
The police minister returns to the Madlanga Commission on Friday. I am Sibahle Mota in Pretoria.
South Africa's Madlanga Commission continues to reveal corruption in law enforcement, exposing failures in the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department and national structures. This week, suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief, or EMPD Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi, faced allegations of running a rogue SWAT unit and unlawful deals with Vusumuzi Kat Matlala, while Police Minister Senzo Mchunu was questioned over disbanding the National Political Killings Task Team without consulting SAPS, or South African Police Service leadership. To help us unpack the latest revelations, we'll be joined in a bit by Professor Sipho Siepe, who is a political analyst. But before we get to him, let's take a short break.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
So we're joined now by Professor Sipho Siepe, who's a political analyst, to help us unpack these latest revelations from the Madlanga Commission regarding misconduct in the EMPD, or Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and the disbandment of the National Political Killings Task Team. Professor Siepe, how are you on this Friday? Always great having these chats.
No, I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me.
So what has stood out the most for you from these latest developments from the Commission, if we look at the latest revelations this week?
I think the appearance of the minister, or who's on leave, Senzo Mchunu, was sort of the highlight. And in a sense, it gave us the thinking of the minister, or lack of thinking around that. Effectively, what we're dealing with are two versions. The version of that was presented on the July the 6th by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, where he claimed that the entire criminal justice system has been infiltrated by crime syndicates and drug cartels, and that among those implicated or working with this are politicians. And in a sense, he sought to point out that the disestablishment or disbanding of the political killings task team by the minister Mchunu was part of an attempt to frustrate the proper functioning of the justice system. in a sense, almost suggesting that some of these politicians were in cahoots or protecting these criminals. So for Mr. Mkhunu, he had to explain to the commission why he decided to disband or disestablish this task team that was seen by the Interministerial Committee for a number of years to be performing very well. At the time of choosing to disband, they were glowing reports about their effectiveness. And this is why Justice Madlanga had to ask pertinent questions. And what emerged was a minister who initially appeared to be confident, but towards the end, he was the most evasive, and he presented an account that it was clearly not believable. He actually came out as somebody who lacks credibility. There were 4 particular questions that he was asked, and he was very weak in answering those. The first one was, if you're going to take a decision that is so consequential in terms of the operations of the South African Police Service, surely you would have consulted. And we know, as a matter of fact, that he did not consult the very people who were in the operational space. And Justice Madlanga was able to even question and quiz him around whether this was not encroaching into a space that is not his, and reminding him about what the Constitution says. So that was the first question that he was very weak in responding to say, why did you not consult people? And he did. We also know that even his deputies were surprised and also went to suggest that he could have handled this matter differently, which was really a very polite form of rebuke by them. So that was the first question. The second question that Mr. Mkhunu was not able to respond to is why the haste. And then he started trying to give a new meaning of what immediately is. So even there, it became very clear that he could not account for his behavior in a manner that is consistent with the version that he's trying to present. The third one was the issue of why target only this particular task team. So it is not only about the timing, it's also around this particular task team. And it came around talking about some organogram, some work study, but the judge said, well, when that task team the work study was completed, it was 2019. And ever since, this task team, the political killing task team, as mandate was continuously being renewed because of its effectiveness. So he found himself wanting in answering that question. So what we found here is a minister who seems to be at the wit's end to say, how can I account myself for having hastily ignored the advice, ignored the reports, and also failed to provide a coherent explanation why this particular task team, not all others.
On that, I mean, him failing to give an explanation, he did kind of give somewhat of a reasoning. Mkhunu disbanding the task team without consulting the SAPS leadership. How significant will his statement that these are the first corruption allegations against him be for his defense at the commission, do you think?
I think for anyone who had watched the proceedings yesterday, it is very clear that the minister has lost any form of credibility and believability. He has been unable to answer the most straightforward questions. And when he's asked a straightforward question, just like other people like Mkonazi, who's a brigadier in Ekurhuleni, when they ask questions, they want to go on telling the story. And Justice Madlanga has been very clear to say some of these questions require yes and no. And when they are pressed to answer whether something is yes or no, you find them very wanting. So I don't think, even as he appears today, he will be able to recover from the dismal failure and performance that we saw yesterday.
The National Political Killings Task Team was singled out while 12 other task teams continued. How does this raise concerns about political interference and other governance issues?
Well, it serves to vindicate the statement that was made by Lieutenant General Mkonazi when he addressed both the Madanga Commission and other committee, that the disestablishment or disbanding of the political task team was because the task team was effective and was coming closer to exposing the shenanigans of politicians, the shenanigans of some in the correctional services, the shenanigans of some who are in the judiciary. So this commission has been very effective in exposing that Lieutenant General Mukonazi's assertions have a solid base and that they have a foundation. And the opposite version that is being presented has been found to be more like hogwash.
Mkhunu has also been accused of having close links or close ties with members of alleged criminal cartels. We heard that earlier this week. And at the ad hoc committee, he's denied any link to Ket Matlala and also was saying that Brian Mokgotsi is just a comrade and that he didn't ask anything from him. What does just a comrade mean to you? How do you unpack that? And does it not imply some sort of friendly relation?
Oh, it definitely does. And I think that's also part of his weakness in how he presented himself or the relationship that he has with Brown Mokgotsi. But what is known is that from a political space, these comrades, they've been working together. And in a sense, when one goes back to the electoral politics of the ANC, you see that you have a minister with presidential ambitions. You have somebody like Mokgotsi who seems to have been in the space of assisting. And also there, you also hear that these are the same people who may have worked tirelessly to ensure that President Ramaphosa wins the presidential candidacy of the ANC in 2017. So this thing, these submissions and revelations have far-reaching ramification in terms of who is who and who plays where, and also the role of money. So I don't think Mkhunu has been able to sufficiently distance himself from the association with Brown Mokgotsi, who has an association with somebody like Ket Matlala. But we also remember that it was Mkhunu who decided to ask Ket Matlala, who's at the moment in prison, to try to come up with a statement that they have not had any relationship. But I think as we proceed, there'll be something called follow the money, and it will somehow reveal the linkage between Brown Mokgotsi and Ket Matlala and Mkhunu, and how these players are all implicated in ensuring that the presidential ambition of Mkhunu is not thwarted.
Let's zoom into the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, part of the proceedings now at the Madlanga Commission, the EMPD. We heard of officials who ignored sexual abuse and misconduct in the Metro Police. Your take?
Well, I mean, this has been one of the weaknesses of the system, that when you have people who get positions because of favors, what often happens is that they create a very toxic environment. And that toxicity also involves people being promoted to positions that they don't deserve. It also means people also turning a blind eye to the misconduct that takes place, including the sexual harassment that we came to hear of. But all this simply suggests that you had a system or an administration, even at the local level, that was very dysfunctional.
Given that we are within the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, how important will it be that the Madlanga Commission definitely dissects this as much as it needs to be dissected, these allegations of these officials?
My sense is that the Madlanga Commission will focus on the narrow mandate it just given, whether the suggestion that the entire criminal justice system has been infiltrated, that the police as well as politicians are in cahoots with this, would be more their focus to say that suggestion or that assertion is sustained. And of course, they would probably make a recommendation that some of these allegations need to be further investigated.
It has also was touched on that senior officers were allegedly engaged in criminal deals under protection. Do we know how exactly this protection works and for how long it stays in place for those who benefit from it once they have this protection?
Well, if people are protected, they can do as they please. And for as long as the person protecting them is in a position of authority, then you can rest assured that it will continue unabated. But what would happen is that once the person goes, what you would have, the lid will be opened and all these skeletons will come crumbling out of the cupboards. And this is when the police as well as investigators will have to come in to simply say, how do we begin to clean this? Because what is important is that the system, governance, and the SAPS, they need to go through a process of restoration. And they cannot do that without all these things being exposed and being followed up.
What do you anticipate then from today as the Commission continues and continues to take the stand? Your expectations versus whether you think they will be met or not?
My sense is that as of yesterday, nothing that Mkhunu says will be taken as believable. Everything that he will say will be taken with a pinch of salt. That having lost credibility, and there will be other questions that he is going to be asked that is going to be very difficult for him to answer. But for now, I think those 4 questions that Justice Madlanga asked have been sufficient to actually say this is one witness whose version cannot be believed.
Professor Siepe, thank you so much again for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's Professor Sipho Siepe sharing his insights on the Madlanga Commission. He's a political analyst joining us here on Rise and Shine quite regularly on this particular topic. I'm sure we'll get another update next week. It's day 42 of this Madlanga Commission. Can't believe it's been 42 days already, and that's where we are, and we continue to monitor those developments. Coming up on Rise and Shine, it's Friday, so we touch into the world of lifestyle, of the arts, and entertainment that will be coming up later after the economics news with Nolutando. So stay tuned for that, keeping things light on a Friday. Right now, though, it's 8:30 Central African time, and let's get our news headlines. Here's Onele Nzinzi. Good morning.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump. While the rebels were not present, the fresh clashes continue to be reported on the ground in the DRC. South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has returned to the Madlanga Commission's inquiry in Pretoria. During cross-examination yesterday, the Commission's chairperson, retired Constitutional Court Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, grilled Mchunu about his decision to disband the political killings task team in the KwaZulu-Natal province. And U.S. military commanders have briefed lawmakers on a double strike on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean. Democrats have described as horrific a video showing survivors in distress being killed. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. the African perspective.
Let's now check in with what's happening in the world of sports. We say good morning, Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Very good morning from the sports day. So African teams have been left scrambling after FIFA's surprise decision to shorten the release period for players ahead of this month's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco. So clubs will only now be required to release players from the 15th of December rather than 2 weeks before the tournament begins on the 21st of December. The ruling has forced Senegal to cancel their planned camp in Tunisia, while Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as Mozambique and defending champions the Ivory Coast are rethinking preparations in Portugal and Spain. Meanwhile, Angola coach Patrice Baumel voiced his frustration as saying months of planning for training sessions as well as friendly matches are now at risk. Meanwhile, a delegation from Iran will attend today's 2026 FIFA World Cup draw in Washington, D.C., despite earlier threats to boycott over a visa dispute. Iran, I beg your pardon, had applied for 9 visas but were granted only 4, with our Federation President Mehdi Taj among those rejected. Taj has warned no officials would attend unless all visas were issued. However, coach Amir Galanoy, as well as the International Relations Officer Omid Jamali, have travelled to the USA and could be joined by more delegates. The draw will take place at 7 p.m. Central African time, with Iran confirmed for their 7th World Cup as well as 4th in succession. The US, co-hosting with Canada as well as Mexico, maintains strict visa restrictions on Iranians for political as well as security concerns. Back home now, South Africa's Proteas women's captain Laura Wolfhard emphasised the team's eagerness to build the Proteas women's T20 international series against Ireland, with the opening match taking place at the World Sports Betting Newlands Cricket Ground in Cape Town today. That match will get underway at 2 p.m. Central African time. Wolfhard addressed the media on Thursday, reflecting on the team's preparations and what they expect from the Irish opposition during the 3-match T20 series at home, which will also take place also in Paarl as well as Benoni for the 2nd and the 3rd T20 matches.
Yeah, they're a good side. I think they have a lot of really good individual players. Gabby Lewis has sort of played around the world. I've played a bit with Ola Prendergast as well. She's a really good cricketer. So I think players like that can sort of take the game away from you. So I think we'll have to be spot on with our plans against some of those big players. And it looks like they're a young side playing quite a fearless brand of cricket with the footage that I've seen. So I think we're going to have to be pretty on it on the day, because players like that can take games away from you. So.
Now, the captain also expressed her as well as the team's excitement to play on home soil again, particularly in Cape Town for the first time since the 2023 ICC Women's T20 World Cup, where they secured South Africa's first ever final appearance.
Yeah, I think it's very nice being back in Cape Town, back home. I think there's no place like home, especially for me being from Cape Town. It sort of feels super refreshing to be back here. Really looking forward to the series, having a home crowd for a change. I think it was a tough tour in India, having all those people against us in the crowd. Looking forward to some home support.
And finally, in Formula One news, Japan's Yuki Tsunoda says he's disappointed but okay after losing his Red Bull seat alongside 4-time Formula One champion Max Verstappen. The 25-year-old will move into a test and reserve role in 2026, with a Franco-Algerian Isaac Hadja stepping up from sister team Racing Bulls. Speaking ahead of the season-ending race in Abu Dhabi, Tsunoda admitted the reality hadn't fully sunk in, recalling his routine breakfast the day after his final race. He began the year as Hadja's teammate before being promoted 2 races in, but has been outperformed by Verstappen, who has 7 wins and 396 points compared to Tsunoda's 33 points this season. Well, that concludes your sports news this morning on Africa Rise and Shine. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. It is 8:35 a.m. Central African Time. More sporting updates with your On The Move team in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Coming up, we touch on the United States, saying that it is reviewing its relationship with Tanzania. This after the violence that marred the country's elections in October. United Nations experts estimating that hundreds of protesters were killed during this brutal election crackdown. So there we go again. The U.S. meddling in African affairs. We'll hear what that story is about in just a bit.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Nolutando Butelezi is on standby now to bring us the latest in the world of business. Good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
South Africa's Department of Cooperative Governance has appointed a 10-person multidisciplinary task team to be deployed in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape Province in order to strengthen governance, fix failing systems, and to help restore basic service delivery. The intervention comes as National Treasury has threatened to withhold $31 million in equitable share funding unless the municipality acts on more than $1.75 billion in historic, unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. COGTA Deputy Minister Dr. Dixon Masemula says that the task team includes specialists in financial management, internal audit, and engineering experts to tackle failing infrastructure. Moving on to Morocco, the country, which has endured 7 years of drought, plans to supply up to 60% of its drinking water from treated seawater by 2030. This is up from 25%. Morocco's Water Minister Nizar Baraka says that the country is accelerating investment in desalination plants powered by renewable energy in order to ensure steady water supply and to maintain Morocco's status as a key producer and exporter of fresh produce amid climate change. This as droughts have dried up some of the country's main water reservoirs and depleted underground resources. The North African country plans to produce 1.7 billion cubic meters of desalinated water annually by 2030 from projects under construction and plans for which it will hold tenders starting next year. Baraka says that all new desalination plants will be powered by renewable energy. Bank of America Global Research says that an external debt restructuring in Senegal is increasingly likely in the second half of 2026. The country is struggling to manage billions in debt that the previous administration did not report and is prolonged talks with the International Monetary Fund for a fresh lending program in order to help it cope. The bank says that it expects external debt moratorium and restructuring negotiations towards the resilience of the local market. A moratorium on external debt and subsequent restructuring negotiations appears to be most likely by late 2026. $1 in Nigeria is 1,446 naira. In Botswana, it is 13 pula 29. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49, and in Zambia, it is 22 kwacha 95. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 31. Russia is 36 rubles 93. India, it's 90 rupees 12. China, it's 7 yuan 6. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rands 6 cents, while $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities now, gold is trading at $4,200 and platinum at $1,649 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $62.81 a barrel. Gold is trading at $4,202 and platinum is at $1,636 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $63.13 a barrel. For any business news stories that you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For your business news, I am Nolutando Butelezi.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
The United States says that it is reviewing its relationship with Tanzania in the wake of violence that marred the country's elections in October. United Nations experts estimate that hundreds of protesters were killed during the brutal election crackdown. The U.S. State Department also cited ongoing repression of religious freedom and free speech as factors in the reassessment of bilateral relations. Here's Nick Harper reporting from Washington.
The State Department says the US has enjoyed a long-standing partnership with Tanzania, but that may now be about to change. In a statement, it noted that recent actions by the country's government had raised grave concerns in Washington, with the State Department calling into question the direction and the reliability of those leading the Tanzanian government. It went on to call out the ongoing repression of religious freedom and free speech, the presence of persistent obstacles to US investment, and disturbing violence against civilians surrounding the October 29th elections. Videos show police and armed men shooting dead protesters, many of them unarmed, after the government stopped opposition politicians from running in the general election. Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan was re-elected, with the government claiming she received 98% of the vote. The US says the government has put American citizens, tourists, and US interests at risk, and as a result, Washington is now comprehensively reviewing its relationship with Tanzania. The bottom line, the US says, Tanzanians' actions will determine the future bilateral relationship. The US ultimatum came on the same day that Washington welcomed multiple African leaders to champion strong relations with other countries on the continent. President Donald Trump hosted the presidents of Rwanda and the DRC for the signing of a peace deal between those two nations. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio welcomed Kenya's President William Ruto to sign what Rubio described as a groundbreaking agreement. It'll see the US provide roughly $1.6 billion to help Kenya's health system as part of a new America First global health strategy, which will also see Nairobi contributing to its own health spending in return. Nick Harper, SABC News, Washington.
At Channel Africa 1 is our handle across the platforms of X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as LinkedIn. Get in touch.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, 23rd of July for Hard Talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and the whole country affected by gender-based violence. For all your favorite SABC radio stations, call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
This week on the Channel African Conversations podcast, Peter Ndoro, our partner in crime here, reflects on the aftermath of Tanzania's disputed October elections, which have plunged the country into political turmoil, human rights abuse claims, and sparked deadly protests. Peter speaks to Jerry Muro, who's member of the Chama cha Mapinduzi, or CCM National Party Congress, Evans Ogada, who's chairperson of the East Africa Law Society Rule of Law Committee, as well as John Kitoka. He's Director of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs at Chadima. So Jerry Muro describes the activists' account as one-sided, insisting that the claims made do not reflect the country's way of doing things. At 8:46 Central African Time, let's take a listen.
First of all, I should say this is not our culture. It's not our Ubuntu, Utu. This is not something to do with Tanzania. And I should put it very clear that those people, if it is true, because what we heard, I heard from their testimonies, I heard it from BBC, we saw it on social media speaking. That was one-sided story. And I expected also the authorities to respond. And we heard a government spokesperson who came and said, what happened, it was not the same as what it was explained by the victims. But I personally, I agree with Evans that this is not how we are conducting our affairs at the regions. But on top of it, maybe I should ask you, we have seen also the activists from Kenya, they were in Uganda and Museveni locked them in the freezer. And the same people, they were also in Tanzania. Now I'm asking, are these monitors or head prefects of human rights in East Africa?
That was Jerry Muro, member of the Chama cha Mapinduzi, or CCM National Party Congress in Tanzania, speaking to Channel Africa Conversations podcast. The host, Peter Ndoro, there, catch this week's episode, rather, on our YouTube channel at Channel Africa 1, as well as on the SABC Plus app. So, it is Friday, the 5th of December, and on Fridays we bring you a segment on Rise and Shine called the Arty Beats. This is where our reporter Nhlanhla Mahlangu goes out and about and captures what's happening in the world of the arts, of lifestyle and entertainment. Let's hear what she has for us for today.
Welcome to this week's African RT Beats, exclusive to Channel Africa, The African Perspective. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu. In this week's segment, South African hip-hop music legends and pioneers, prophets of the city honored, and Grammy Award-winning DJ Black Coffee host a charity dinner to raise funds to empower young people. An exclusive award ceremony honoring South African hip-hop music legends and pioneers, prophets of the city, took place in Johannesburg this week. The event, hosted by the Black Entrepreneurs Alliance, included an exhibition tracing POC's journey from 1989 to today, featuring rare photographs, iconic clothing from different eras, and video timelines. Dion T. Daniels, known as DJ Ready D, was part of the group and says they are honored by the recognition.
Being one of the first generation contributors, to hip hop culture in our country, and also being a part of Prophets of the City, for me it's a really phenomenal feeling. First and foremost, I think it's humbling. I'm grateful as well, and I'm sure the members of the crew will feel the same way. Throughout the years, we've just been in go mode. You just go, you just do your thing. You're touring, you're releasing your music, putting out the videos, and you're constantly on tour. So we don't really think about awards, and you don't think about, having these types of interactions and stops. So at this point in our lives, and also bearing in mind the age at which we are right now, all the members, for somebody to come along and say, guys, we actually acknowledge, we see you, and we actually understand and we take note of what you guys have been doing and your music and what you've done is still relevant in this day and age. I think it's a really phenomenal experience, and it goes a long way in keeping everybody motivated and also making everybody feel appreciated to a certain degree, knowing that you didn't put your life on the line, for nothing as well, because we released our music during the dark days of apartheid. It was also very, very difficult times, violent times for South Africa as well. And a lot of people that were opinionated and a lot of people that protested out there and voiced their opinions. Many people were assassinated. A lot of people had to leave the country, and we were practically in the midst of all that chaos, So still to be around today, I think it means a lot.
And what are the rest of the members doing? I know you are more into DJing, but what are other members up to?
Yeah, everybody's thankfully still busy doing, I would say, various things within hip-hop culture. Ramon's a judge, he's also a coach. Shorty Blitz is still competing on a very high level, and he's also part of our non-profit organization as an ambassador, using breaking or break dancing as one of the key pillars and instruments to help educate youth as well. In fact, most of the dancers are involved with that part of things. Shaheen, who was the lead rapper for Prophets of the City, he relocated to Canada many years ago. So he's still a full-blown academic, and he works with refugees from Africa in Canada through hip-hop music and the production of the music and writing and healing and all of those different types of things. So, and Ishmael, of course, Ishmael is quite busy with his solo career as well, and he's still producing hits, thankfully. And then on my side, more than half of my life is entrenched within the non-profit organization GCAP. So we use the principles of hip-hop culture, the experiences that we've had with Prophets of the City through the years. We are still using those principles as a means to keep our programs going, and the lessons that we've learned from that as well. So I work in radio, I still produce music on the one side as well, and I've been doing a lot of work in film and media as well.
You guys were the pioneers of hip-hop music in South Africa. What do you make of the current hip-hop in the country?
I think the current state of hip-hop in South Africa, I feel, is very interesting. When you're young, you do go through the motions, you go and you tend to go with the wave, as they would call it. I think it's so diverse at the moment, and it makes me very excited, just to kind of see there's a new movement and a new energy coming through as well. As much as you get things that will excite you, of course, you're going to get the other things that will raise a bit of concern as well. But my focus is more on young people and artists that really bringing music to the forefront, and also being engaged within the culture itself, and kind of understanding and also learning about what the culture is in its entirety. I'm very excited about those components. And, over the last few years, I've spent most of my time in Cape Town City, because that's where I've done radio. And through the radio shows, there's a lot of local hip-hop artists that came through the doors as well. So that helped to educate me and keep me, I would say, in the loop of things, and also my finger on the pulse to understand what's going on. So I would say in the community, and at its core and from a grassroots level, our First Nations, Khoi and San and heritage and those types of conversations and the education thereof, a lot of that is coming through hip-hop music and hip-hop culture. And this is just a way for us to, I would say, to connect and also have that understanding, seeing that we didn't receive that as an education within the schooling system as well, and mainstream media yet to latch onto it. But hip-hop, there's a consciousness, there's an awakening taking place, and thankfully, it's coming through the culture, because there's a lot of, I would say, participants, rappers and dancers from back in the day that are now taking it a step forward. They're now becoming linguists, they're becoming academics, they're becoming professors, they're becoming chiefs, and they're kind of taking, I would say, those very key and critical positions. But I mean, it was hip-hop culture that was the driving force in order for them to get to where they are at now.
The Black Coffee Foundation last Friday hosted its annual charity gala dinner in Melrose, Johannesburg, raising funds for community projects across South Africa. The night featured an auction of paintings and grocery donations. Renowned DJ and music producer Nkosinathi Black Coffee Maphumulo says he hosts the event in support of initiatives that empower the next generation.
I do this every year because I know exactly how it's like to live in a township, in a room with no lights but candles, no electricity, no proper toilet system. That's how I grew up, and I'm fully aware of how us South Africans are still behind and how our country is still growing. So I cannot look away and forget how people are living. That's why outside the auction, we are asking people to at least pledge 1,000 rands just to make families' lunch, Christmas lunch or dinner better.
The 2025 edition of the proudly South African Local Fashion Police Grand Finale, an initiative which has become synonymous with the celebration of South African fashion, took place in Sandton, Johannesburg last Thursday. It seeks to inspire South Africans to support local fashion and directly contribute to job creation and economic empowerment. Proudly South African Chief Executive Officer Eustace Mashimbia says increased support for the local fashion designers is critical as it has a ripple effect on the industry value chain in the retail, clothing, textile and leather industries.
So this is the 5th edition of the Local Fashion Police Consumer Activation. And in the past 5 years, what we've seen is growth in the form of the number of people who have showed interest in entering the competition, showcasing themselves in what they are wearing, that which they will have bought locally, and telling us who the designer is or who the factory is that made the garment that they are wearing. And I think that has been the most interesting thing, is how wide the entries are coming from in terms of the if you think of the country itself. I mean, we've had entrants from all 9 provinces, from all walks of life. So it's not for the affluent only, but it's for every South African who is able to showcase themselves in that which is made in South Africa, contributing to jobs by supporting that one designer who might employ 2 or 3 seamstresses, by supporting a manufacturer whose garment is in a retail store, so thereby supporting a job in manufacturing and in retail. And I think that is the most critical thing with this campaign, is that we are able to demonstrate how easy it is for people to heed our call for them to buy local.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday for Channel Africa, I am Dlandla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Coming So On the Move is up next here on Channel Africa after Rise and Shine. And Benjamin joins us now to tell us what we can expect on this Friday. Happy Friday.
Hey, happy Friday to you. And we're going to keep to the theme of RT Beat. I told you that I love RT Beat, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you should give it to us. Still not convinced?
No, we need it. You guys have all these other fun stuff. This is the only fun stuff we have. We're always talking about famine and hunger.
Yeah, true. All right. Today we're going to be looking at a celebration marking 40 years since one of South Africa's most electric and influential music icons actually lit up the township. We're going to be paying homage to Brenda Fassie. We'll be speaking to writer, critical writer and public arts curator Bongani Madondo about this one. We'll be speaking about the legacies and also the relationship between the writer and Brenda Fassie himself, who's got a book, who's actually been following the influence of Brenda Fassie for many, many years. So yeah, we're looking forward to that one.
Nice one. Great stuff. Enjoy the show.
Cool, we will do.
Okay, so that's where we say goodbye then, I guess, and the end of the show. It went by quite quickly today. I feel like it did. Happy Friday, everyone, and be safe over the weekend. And we'll join you again on Monday, 6 till 8, bright and early, myself and Peter Ndoro. I am Asanda Beda. From me and the Rise and Shine team, it's goodbye for now. And of course, stay tuned for the news update coming up with Onele Nzinzi. Remember, you can get in touch with us on our social media platforms. At Channel Africa 1 is our handle. We're not just live streaming there, but we are on YouTube, but we are on I think everyone, actually, all of them, we're there. You can find us wherever you look for us on social media. Stay with Channel Africa from the African perspective. Bye-bye from us for now.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Looking at your top stories, Rwanda and the DRC sign a peace deal, and South Africa makes a major breakthrough in the fight against wildlife trafficking. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a peace deal at a summit in Washington hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump. This was aimed at ending the long-running conflict in the eastern DRC. The agreement comes after an escalation of fighting earlier this year when the M23 rebel group seized key cities, displacing thousands and causing heavy civilian casualties. While both President Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame have endorsed the deal, the rebels were not present and fresh clashes continue to be reported on the ground.